And welcome everybody to the PCS Like a Pro show. I'm Megan Harless, your host like always, and we are glad that you are here joining us today. Before we get into what we are going to talk about today with our guest and all the good things that she's doing, I just want to remind everybody that as you come down on your orders, to make sure you get onto DPS and get your move set up. If you're doing a PPM, remember you have to set up another shipment as a PPM if you want to be paid for that move. And when you go through that process at the end of it, it'll give you an estimate of what your incentive pay will be. Now, keep in mind that estimate is based on what you estimate the weight to be, but you'll be paid based on the actual weight that you move, because you'll have to provide those weight tickets empty and full, whether it's your vehicle, a U-Haul truck, a container company. You're going to have to get weight tickets one way or another for your PPM. Also, if you are going to be shipping a car, don't forget to check out PCSMyPOV.com. There's a few changes that are going to be taking place April 1st about documentation for like ownership of the vehicle, and then like other documentation that's going to be needed to release the vehicle to somebody if it's not you or your spouse. So check that out. They've got all the information there on the website. So getting into what we've got today for you, I'm really excited. We've got Liz Cook joining us. So if you're watching this on April 13th, I just want to tell you right now that it's completely recorded because Liz is at an Oconus location, and I wasn't going to ask her to wake up at 2 a.m. to join us. Trying to be a
I
little
would, but I like this. I like this a little better.
Yeah, so if you're watching, it's totally recorded, but I will be in the comments helping to answer questions as we go through stuff. So Liz, thank you for joining us today. If you could just take a little moment to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, yeah. So Liz Cook, my family is, well, we're an Army family. We've been active duty for, 8 years or so, but my husband has been in for 13, I believe. I don't know, I've lost track. So we are overseas right now. We've been overseas for the past few months, and we're just loving it. And I have 2 little kids, 4 years old, 2 years old. So busy.
No, I understand with all the little kids. It gets a little easier as they get a little bit older, but they still kind of drain you on some days.
Yes, they do.
So let's get into it. You have a company called List and File. So can you tell us what exactly is List and File?
Sure. So adulthood and military life in general come with a lot of complexities and details and paperwork, right? Mm-hmm. So List and File is a company that I started to help military families organize and track that important paperwork. It's a very simple idea, but it's really useful and really kind of, I would call it life-changing, but I'm an organizing nerd, so.
Yes, if you are into organizing, because I love organizing everything, color coding things and all that good stuff, like this is the perfect system that everybody really kind of needs. So what was your inspiration behind creating List and File?
So when I first, when I married my husband and I, was just starting military life, I knew zero things about military life, like most people do, I feel like when they marry into the military. But as soon as I heard the idea of a PCS binder, it was actually at an SFRG meeting, and a good friend of mine was saying, "Oh, this is what you need to make. Like, it's very helpful. It's very useful. Make your own." And then we moved on to the next topic. But for whatever reason, that idea just stuck in my head, and I thought, "Oh, I'm gonna take this, and I'm gonna organize so good. I'm gonna be the best at organizing this." I don't know. I'm a nerd, like I said. So I wanted to elevate and kind of expand the PCS binder idea, right? So I wanted a resource that was consistent and reliable, and that was actually like pretty to look at. So really, I wanted something that just made my nerdy type A personality like beam with pride and satisfaction whenever I looked at it. But mostly I wanted other families to enjoy the same benefits of organization while making it easy for them to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's a couple different versions, and I have mine here that I'm going to show a little bit as you talk about it.
Awesome.
So there are some different versions to this. There's like a PCS or a life binder one, and then there's an educational version to it as well. So can you walk us through first the PCS binder and how this can be used during your PCS?
Yes, absolutely. So we're actually in the middle of officially separating the life binder from the PCS aspect. So yeah, so right now our life binders act as like the general household, paperwork organizer. So everything from health and finance and legal and emergency and vehicles and pets and all of that stuff. But they still work as a PCS binder for up to 10 duty stations. But what we're creating right now are like smaller, more move-focused PCS binder inserts that will provide dedicated space for your PCS-specific move and paperwork. So like moving company forms and claims forms and to-do lists and housing inventories and all of that stuff. So we're really excited to kind of officially separate those and launch that in the near future.
Yeah. So to kind of get into this a little bit more, so I want to just show mine briefly. So what it is binder insert tabs, and so you have all these different tabs that Liz has mentioned, from identity, where you can put in like making sure you've got your social security cards and your birth certificates and all of that identity type of stuff when you PCS, because if you have to register in CYS, you have to like show the birth certificates and all that stuff. Different things, the health one, making sure you have all your immunization records, because the schools need those, your new PCM needs those, CYS needs those. And then it gets into like, the moving stuff and transit, making sure you keep your receipts, your weight tickets and everything. But, it's a nice set of organized binder tabs that helps you create that PCS binder and get all that information that you need together with it. And I'm excited to hear about the separation between the PCS one and the life one, because this, because when I have, it still work good as like a life binder. It kind of helps you make sure that you have all of that stuff together and all those important documents from the military, the SGLI stuff, the DD-93, having copies of those and keeping them in this can definitely go a long way for when something happens, who to call. Even PCS, and like in here having, I think on one of them, it's like your insurance information, where if you get a flat tire into an accident during your PCS, you can easily pull it out and know who to call, have that contact information, and be able to make it something nice and smooth and an easy process to kind of go through. And then one of the other things that I love that you include in it is the additional suggestions list card, where it takes the tabs that you have, but it goes a little more in depth of like other things that you can include into each tab as well, to kind of give you an idea how you can personalize it and make it your own and add what you need to, and not include things that you maybe don't need to as well. So I definitely love how you have that all packaged together for that. So you now have, there's also an educational binder, which I will say I did order one recently. It should hopefully get to me within the next day or two. Because
I noticed that. I thought, I was fangirling because you were like amazing. So I was like, oh my gosh. And anyway, yeah.
Yeah, because as my own family is getting ready for our own PCS this summer, I was like, I really do need a better system to help keep track of all of their educational stuff. And so I was like, you know what? Liz has got something. Let me just get it. So the educational binder, how can this kind of be used with PCS and helping to make that transition smoother as well?
Yeah, so the life binder has an education tab in it, but we realized that especially if you have a school-age kid, and especially multiple school-age kids, that can quickly become its own binder, right? There's so much stuff that you need to track to help your kids move, at least somewhat seamlessly between schools when you're PCSing. So the education binder we created especially for these school-age moving military kids. And it essentially allows parents to easily learn and gather the documents that are needed for that that are needed for that smooth transition in between schools. And so you'll see when you get it, I guess, in a day or two. I'm so excited. So
by the time this airs, I will have it in my hands, everybody, and I will be dropping into the comments, all the good stuff about it.
That's true. Oh, yeah, I'm excited for you to get it. So it includes 8 categories. It's a little smaller than the life binder. So it's 8 tabs, and it includes categories like new and former school information, personal information, records, even special programs. If your child is in certain special programs, it's got all of the documents there that you would need to gather and bring with you when you move. So the education binders also, we wanted to look great and fun for the kids, and they can even be completed alongside your older kids or teenagers, like to kind of include them in the responsibilities of managing their own education journey in the military. So if you have older kids and you want them to kind of take some of that responsibility, it's really easy to kind of follow step by step as well. So those are really good resources.
And I see it being a really great resource of when you PCS and you're at that new school and you're trying to register them, and they will request all the official stuff from the school and get it that way. But it's a great way to be able to have your own copies of it, of the records, of the IEPs, of the 504s, whatever it may be, and being able to provide that so they can begin any, pre-planning or process that they might need to do while they wait on the official ones to come in as well, which I was really excited about, because having 3 kids and trying to keep track of everybody's individual things, and knowing next year I'm going to have one in high school, one in middle school, one in elementary school, and trying to just keep it all together. So I was really excited when I saw that you came out with that, and seeing how that is. So
I will say, sorry, and I will say really quick too, is that obviously a lot of this paperwork in the education binder and also in the life binder, we have electronic copies of, right? I mean, that's just kind of how our world is now, and it's easy and it's fast, but we also believe in not putting all your eggs in one basket as far as that kind of organization goes. So you don't want everything online and only online, and we also don't want everything just on paper and only in paper, because obviously you can lose one of the two. It happens. And so definitely having electronic copies of your paper, right, in your life binders is a good idea. And then of course having physical forms of all of that electronic copy documents things is another good idea. So if they say, oh, we don't have it, we lost it, I don't know where it went, you can just hand them the book and go, here's everything.
Yes. We, as much as we love technology also loves to fail us too at times. And having those hard copy documents to be able to say, here it is, or let me make you a copy, or, if that goes missing, you've got it backed up, digitally, you can be able to say, let me just email it to you. Having both is always a good thing. Some people say back up your backup, so you've got everything that you need. So you recently have done, we're going to shift a little bit and kind of talk some about your personal experience, because you recently did an Oconus move. Can you just tell us what that Oconus move experience was like?
It was good. It was definitely overseas. It was a lot of, let's see, I'm trying to combine my thoughts.
I know it's such a loaded question that I just kind of
I know.
So the process of physically moving your stuff, let's break it down there. The physically moving your stuff, the packing, the loading, the delivery. Did you end up with all 3 shipments, your express, UAB, your household goods, and your non-temp storage? And can you just tell us if you had all 3, what the separation of your home was kind of like, determining what went where and how? Did your stuff arrive smoothly on time? Did you experience the delays?
Okay. As far as all of that, I will say that our move did go pretty well. We didn't have any major problems, which was very lucky. I'm a huge fan of your group on Facebook, PCS Like a Pro, and I have been reading comments and your advice in that group religiously for like years. And so when the time came, I was like, okay, Megan taught me how to do this. So we did do all 3 shipments. We did the temporary storage, we did HHG, we did our unaccompanied baggage. We decided that we would rather be uncomfortable and without our things in our at our stateside home rather than here overseas. And so we did ship out all of our things pretty early. And then we were kind of left with like an empty house. So we were like eating breakfast, like on our fireplace mantle, like kind of just making it work. It was like camping out in our own house because we didn't have any furniture or anything. But we decided we would rather do that in a place, in a home that we were comfortable with, instead of, in a new country, new home, new neighborhood, all of that. So what we did was we organized a lot, and this is just my, again, type A coming through. We organized and cleaned a lot before the movers came. So we packed everything that I wanted to make sure was packed well. So that ended up being most of our house anyway. But we did that before the movers came in. Because we did that, it's not required, obviously. You don't have to do that. But because we did that, I had a lot less stress on our pack out days, and the movers were able to move through our house a lot faster, packing everything up. They didn't have, I know this kind of can differ, right, between moving companies and things, but the movers didn't have any problem with the things that we had packed, and they were like, oh yeah, this is fine. And so overall it went really smoothly as far as overseas moves go.
No, that's good to hear. And as she said, the pre-packing that in our group we always talk about, which is like simple things like, maybe wrapping saran wrap around your knife block, or putting your office supplies, the paper clips and your pens, like into a Ziploc bag, so you're not having to dig those out of packing paper and all of that stuff. Just little, simple pre-pack type of things can definitely help make your move go smoother. Just as she said, it's not required, and moving companies will tell you it's absolutely not at all required. But for me, I'd rather take the time to do that than try to fish out the paper clips, fish out the tiny toys that get lost or dropped, or the couple times that we almost stabbed ourselves in the toe as the knives fell out of our knife block.
Oh my gosh.
Well, lessons learned. So now we wrap it with saran wrap.
Oh gosh.
The small things like that can definitely help make the unpacking easier. Can you just talk a little bit about like the logistical part of your family physically getting from stateside to Oconus? Like, did you fly commercially? Was it on the Patriot Express? Did you have pets you have to worry about shipping? Like, how did that kind of process go?
Yes. So we don't have any pets. So that definitely adds quite a few extra steps if you're moving with pets, but we don't have any. We decided to take leave before we moved. So we packed up our house stateside, got everything out, had to stay in a hotel for the last couple of days or so as my husband out processed. But then we took about a month's worth of leave with our family in Utah to hang out with family and be with them before moving overseas. So that was obviously something that we had to kind of organize a little bit separately. So what we were able to coordinate with the military was saying, okay, well, we'll get ourselves, to Utah, but then they were able to change our flights from obviously our base back in Georgia to the Salt Lake International Airport. So they kind of changed gears just a little bit, but it wasn't hard at all. So we left to Korea from Salt Lake instead of from Fort Gordon, where we were originally. So we did fly Patriot Express, out of Seattle, and that was a whole experience too. We showed up, bright and early. We decided to show up the evening before with our flight, and that was kind of the only flight that was available too. So we didn't really have a choice. But we got like 5 hours of sleep at the hotel, and then woke up super early at like 2 or 3 in the morning that morning. Made our way to the airport, and then obviously went through all of the lines and the I don't even know what to call it, just all of the stuff to help prepare you to get on the plane. By the time we landed in I'll just say we're in Korea. By the time we landed in Korea, it had been, I don't know,
long time.
It had been a long time without sleep, and I don't sleep on planes. I can't sleep on planes. I try so hard and I just never do. So I had about a half hour's worth of sleep. There was a layover in Japan too. And anyway, it was a really long time before we got over here. And then we, it's COVID era. So we entered quarantine immediately and stayed in a super small 300 square foot apartment for the following 2 weeks. So
yeah. Did you guys ship a car as well?
We did ship a car. Mm-hmm.
So can you briefly talk about what that experience was like turning in at the VPC? Did you have to rent a car or have a rental car on one side or the other? Any delays with receiving that?
Yeah, the VPC process went smoothly. Again, I'm super grateful that this whole move was pretty uneventful, which is what you want. Yeah, so we decided to ship our family van over here, and we obviously, you need to get it cleaned before you move, cleaned really, really well. So we had to schedule stuff around that cleaning to make sure that we didn't really touch it before we dropped it off. And especially with kids can't touch the car after you clean it. So we did get a rental car you have to schedule it just so to make it line up great. And again, luckily nothing happened to throw that off. But I will say, when we got to the VPC, our life binder completely saved us from having to reschedule our car shipment that day, because when we arrived, the VPC office told us that we were missing a certain form, right? So my husband didn't know what form that they were talking about, and he was on the phone, kind of panicked, calling people, because if they had to reschedule the van, then we couldn't leave on our flight for leave when we had it scheduled, and everything would be completely messed up. So anyway, when I arrived in our other car to the VPC, and they told us, oh, it's this form that we're looking for, I immediately recognized it because I had everything organized in our life binder. And I said, oh, we've got that. And so I was able to just pull it out of the vehicles tab, there's a little plug there, and pull it out and just hand it to them. Yes, that one right there saved us. So
camera's on the other side.
Yeah. So I was able to just pull it out and hand it to them, and they go, oh yeah, okay, you're good. And we were in and out. So just make sure that you read all of the necessary requirements and the documentation and things that the VPC needs, and make sure that you have it there, because if you have to reschedule and you've got really tight, things are scheduled really closely together, that could be a problem.
Yeah, and to keep in mind, like it is by appointment only. And so if you have your appointments, maybe one of the last ones of the day, there isn't a leave and like come back later in the day type of thing. Even if your appointment's in the morning, like it's appointment only, and their next available appointment may not be for 2 weeks. And so then you got to figure out, you got to give power of attorney to somebody and all the paperwork to somebody and hope they're able to do it smoothly. And what happens if that one fails? So you got to make sure you have all your documents. And Liz has thought ahead to get you organized and to get everything you need there. So definitely well worth it. So before, obviously with an Oconus move, you had to use military movers, but in general, stateside, are you team Diddy, team do it yourself, PPM, or are you team let's have the movers do it?
I am a hardcore team Diddy. I would prefer to break my furniture myself. No, until our overseas move recently, we've only ever done Diddy moves. And it's kind of a fun challenge for me, because again, I'm an organizer, so I love to take on organizational challenges like moving is. And then I'm also kind of a personal finance nerd too, so I love to see where we can save, and talking to different moving companies and saying, well, these people will offer it for this, can you go any lower, and just bartering and that kind of thing. It's like my ideal project is moving. And even though it's completely stressful and I don't like it while I'm in it, team Diddy all the way. But I will say that for overseas moves, I can't imagine doing that, having done that ourselves. So
Mhm.
I'm kind of glad that overseas move ditties are not an option.
Yes, yes. So if you having an overseas move, or at least having a move now with military movers, will that change your plan at all once you guys come back stateside on future PCSs, or will you always be team Diddy?
It might change. You know, it's hard because a lot of moves go perfectly fine and there are no problems and they're okay, and a couple of things get scratched and that's it. And then of course you hear there are also the horror stories that happen occasionally, and you don't want that to happen. But I will say that I think I would be more open to having or to doing, you know, a government move in the future, especially coming back stateside. We have to.
Mm-hmm.
It's very nice, especially with kids,
Mm-hmm.
um, because kids have a lot of stuff, and you know, the more kids you have, the more stuff you have, and it gets kind of overwhelming sometimes. So it is nice
Mm-hmm.
to be able to pack and clean what I want to, and then the movers take care of the rest. It is pretty nice.
Yeah, I always find that there's kind of um, both ends of the spectrum. We very rarely find people like kind of in the middle. Either people really love to do a ditty and they will do it all day long, every
Mm-hmm.
single time, and then you get other people that are just like, I want no part in that. Like, other people need to come handle this for me.
Exactly. Yeah.
Then like our family, we did it once where long time ago, before the container companies were a thing, my husband drove a Penske truck, following me with our child in our own little pickup truck, um, across country before the big truck stops were a big thing. And so here we are, like, trying to find diesel at like these little tiny side of the road gas stations. And after that, he was like, never again, never
Never, I
again.
never want to do that. Yep. Yep.
And now I'm trying to convince him, like, we should do a ditty at least one time. And like, there's container companies, like, I'm like, you don't have to drive a truck anymore. Like, other people will do that part for us.
Yes.
Um,
See, my husband has driven the moving truck a couple of times, and each time it got bigger because we had more stuff. And the
yeah.
last time he was like, I'm not doing that. He was so afraid of causing a wreck or five. He did a great job, but it was still nerve wracking for him.
Yeah, yeah, that was us, because we ended up with like the biggest truck that the U-Haul place
Yes.
had, which turned out to be a blessing. We had rented one, reserved one smaller, and they didn't have it, but they had the bigger size, and they're just like, we'll just
Uh-huh.
give that to you for no extra charge, and it ended up
Oh
being
yeah.
what we needed.
Oh good.
Um, but yeah, so favorite duty station and your least favorite duty station.
Favorite duty station, I would say, is the one that we're currently at here in
Mm-hmm.
South Korea. I love to travel. I love to learn foreign languages. And so I was super ecstatic when my husband got orders here. So yeah, so the one that we're currently at, I would say, is my favorite right now. My least favorite, I wasn't super fond of Fort Hood geographically. I loved the people. That's always something that can, you know, that can save a place. I loved
Mm-hmm.
the friends in the community that were there. But I didn't love the location or the weather or the deployments.
Yeah, Forehead is definitely a very high op tempo area.
Mm-hmm.
We spent a couple of years there too, and it just felt like everything was complete rush, run, go, go, go. Very
Yes.
little downtime,
Yeah.
if any. So I didn't mind the people. Again, the people were really great. The people really can make or break a duty location. So I was
Mm-hmm.
fortunate. I made some of my best friends there, and
Mm-hmm.
loved that. For us, the location wasn't so bad. We enjoyed some of the surrounding area, but I think what killed it for us was just the units and the op tempo that we had
Mm-hmm.
experienced too. I think
Yeah.
kind of hurt that for us.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up today, what is a piece of advice that you would want to pass on to other spouses?
So, um, I could, I could talk about how important organization is, but everybody already knows that. So I'll just say to Remember that you are loved and you are important and you are strong and you are not alone in any of this.
Yes.
So,
That is so good. I think that's what we all kind of need to hear about right now too, is that, I mean, and a lot of times it does feel like we're alone, but with social media and technology now these days, we can feel a little more connected to friends that we've left in past locations and try to connect with other folks before we arrive at our new location so we don't feel so alone. But it's always one of those things like, you're not alone. There's always going to be somebody there for you. And if you ever need anything, like, and I think as a community, as spouses, we need to get better at asking for help or asking for assistance with things. And you'll find that once you ask, so many people will want to step in and want to help you, and to show you that you're not alone when you're feeling like that. So those are definitely some good words, to really end this segment with, and that we all, again, all of us really need to hear that. So thank you so much, Liz, for joining us today and sharing with us about List and File, and then about your own OCONUS experience and the rest of your military experience, as well. I greatly appreciate it, and glad we could work out a time where I wasn't asking you to wake up at 2 a.m.
No, thank you so much for working with me. Yeah, I thought, oh no, like I would love to talk with her, but I feel like it's the time zones are a little weird. So yeah, that's glad it worked out.
So y'all know, like I messaged Liz. I was like, hey, I need you on my show. Let's talk about this. I was like, I don't know what the time zones are, but this is when I normally have it. And she's like, yeah, that's like 2 a.m. for me. Could we do a different time? I'm like, definitely. Like,
I mean, I'm a night owl, but like maybe not that.
Yeah.
Night. Yeah.
Which, I mean, for me, there's very little I'm going to wake up at 2 a.m. for anyway. So I totally get it. Like, sleep is important. Like, when you can get sleep, like, you need it.
Get it. Yes.
And whatnot. So thank you again for taking time out of your day and joining us here today. For everybody else watching, have a great rest of your day, great rest of the week. Join us again next week, same time, same place. And next week, I'm very excited that we are going to have with us Mallory from, she sometimes known as Diddy Mama or Mama on the Move. Her family, they're basically professional Diddy movers. They've only ever done Diddy moves. So she's going to come talk with us about her experience, lessons learned, give us some little tips, tricks, hacks, things that you need to know about doing a Diddy move yourself. So join us then. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be lots of great information. So if you're planning a Diddy this upcoming move season, you're not going to want to miss it. So until then, y'all take care, and we will see you then.
Thanks. Bye.